I'm Steve with Elev8, and today we got a really cool Elev8 with Vincent Glass Works. This guy is super cool. Before we get into that, I want to put a call out. We need some help, and we got a really cool program for our Elev8 brand ambassadors called Elev8 Dolls. Go check it out at elev8dolls.com. Also, check out Elev8 Veterans. It's a really cool 501c3 nonprofit. It's really cool. Anyways, let's get into this. All right, we got Vincent Glasswork here for Elev8. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing really good, man. It's a beautiful day here in Oregon.
Oh yeah, man. And you just got off a little bit of work now, right? And
I do a little bit of house painting on the side for the last 23 years, and so it's kind of hard to say no when there's good money, and I just have all the tools, so it's just easy.
Yeah, good deal. And then, so big question is, how did you get into glass blowing?
So back in early 2000, I would say 2001 or 2002, a friend of mine started a nice little shop in his backyard and was self-taught and honestly was probably one of the better glass blowers at that time. I was just gifted enough to be able to, do we lose that?
We're back.
No. Okay. I was gifted enough to be able to sit in there and watch him for endless hours. And I was always intrigued by the marble side, but back then there wasn't a lot of help for me, and there sure wasn't a lot of oxygen and stuff like that available. So everybody complained, "Hey man, you're wasting my oxygen." And I just said, I don't care, man. That's what I want is marble. So I was lucky to be around it young. And then I got away from it for many years, but I was really blessed to be able to get back into it about 8 years ago.
Yeah. So when you first started, did you know that you wanted to do these freaking massive marbles, or did you just want to make marbles?
Right. About this big 1 inch was a big one back then on a production pipe. And so he let me play with a lot of those little things. I got to learn about dichro and how sensitive it was. And yeah, all of a sudden I would go to make a little bit bigger one and they would always complain, hey, quit wasting my oxygen. And so I never really got to get to that size until I got my own torch and my own setup. And I just kept pushing because I would see them that big and I was like, man, one, I can't afford them. But two, how does that work?
Yeah, that's huge. And I got to imagine the heat intensity behind something like that has to be, I imagine this thing right here, this is freaking 4 inches. Like this has to be hot. Are you wearing a suit when you do these?
I've recently upgraded to a full suit and face shield because it is really drawing on the body. And I didn't really realize, but a few of those big builds, I would get really delirious, probably mild heat stroke, didn't even know it. But the radiant heat, is this much on each side. And with that Cobra I was running, anywhere within 3 feet of that marble, it's probably 1,000 degrees.
Right. And so you're doing these all by hand.
All by hand, no lathe.
Right. So you're standing close to 1,800 degrees, like right there.
Right. And sometimes I can get back with a roller and kind of get back enough to get relief. I have a small fan that blows on my head, but really there's just no relief. Once you start with that marble and it gets to a certain size, there's no stopping. You can't put it in the kiln. You just got to grind through it. I truly believe that was half of my real yearn to want to do it, is because I would be halfway through going, I don't think I can finish this. Then I would finish it and go, all right, how big can I get now?
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So you said you got a Cobra now that you're using to get these, and that's GTT's like biggest of the biggest, right?
Yeah, that's their second to the biggest. I was running that for about 8 months. A friend of mine bought it, and I was gonna take it over, but I ended up, now I'm back down on the Samurai. It's a little bit more of a condensed, shorter barrel, so I can work around it a little better. And I think eventually what I'm gonna buy is the Python that they have, because it's a lot slimmer. And eventually the Quadzilla when I get enough money.
Hell yeah. Did you have a mentor as you started blowing glass? You were working at a friend's house, but
right. His name was Adam Mowell. He was in High Times a couple of times back in like 2004. We hit a couple of the Hemp Fest up in Seattle, and we used to do there was a couple of small festivals here called Hemp Fest, and we had hit those a few times. But really, those early days, we were, hanging out with Snodgrass and JB and all these guys. We didn't even know who they were. They were just at this festival. Then later, he started kind of being looked at as a real good self-taught glass blower. And come to find out, he back then was really amazing, and still is quite. I won't say fresh. You can see his work, and you instantly know it's from the early 2000s, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I would say Adam Howell is definitely my mentor. He taught me every single thing there was to know. And then, like I said, he was off the torch for a while, but I have him back in my studio at least 3 times a week now. So
fresh.
It's been,
so that's a nice little spin back.
Right. And now we got his daughters back there making marbles for some of our production stuff. It's been really neat. The only issue is he's got like a kind of it's called Huntington's disease. So his body's slowly breaking down, and I'm trying to get him on the torch as much as possible, but I'm hoping the more he makes and gets good responses, he'll want to do it a little more.
No doubt. No doubt. Keep pushing him.
Yes, absolutely.
What classes or any have you taken?
I have yet to take any classes. I've been thinking quite a bit about getting down to John Bridges' house. And once he gets the studio up and running, the size in which he's able to put stuff into a marble in the depth and just the intricacy is mind blowing. So I'd really like to work with him a little and get a little bit more precise on some of my stuff. Other than that, I've thought about a lot of classes, but there's just not a lot of people out there making these giant marbles, and let alone wanting to teach what they're doing.
Right, because as you go to that level, you kind of find a little secret, and you kind of want to hold on to it. And
it's hard. Yeah, you want to show everybody, and you want everybody over to watch, but there's a couple points where I'm like, hey, just turn around for 10 minutes. Right.
Fun. It took me years to figure this out here.
Absolutely. Especially with the Dichro. The Dichro is such a finicky beast. I can be halfway into a marble and overheat it and just completely burn the Dichro out. It can be tricky.
Yeah. And then so halfway into something like that, that's hours, just toasted, gone. And
right. And or the worst is when I'll build something. This was maybe a year ago, I would build something with the wrong color inside and it would crack or check. And here you got this giant 4-inch orb and it's really not sellable. But I'm really blessed to have some really good followers out there that really want to buy my second work like that. And I'm not too proud. So I'll make sure if it's something I'm not proud of, but they can get it in their hands at a really reasonable cost. I tend to do that a lot.
Yeah. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. It's better than the trash, and it's get what you can, for sure. I agree.
Right. Get back to raw materials, but then also maybe that person can't afford a really, an A marble. So that's my one chance to get into their collection and have them look at it every go, hey, you know what? I do need to buy a really nice one. So,
yeah, that's pretty cool. Where do you get your inspiration from in your glass?
I've really found a huge connection with nature here in Oregon. I absolutely love getting out in the world. And I would say the inspiration for almost all of my marbles is just people. I like to meet other people. I feel them. I get stories. And a lot of times, like, especially with Vegas, I came home with so many good ideas and looking at other people's work. But mainly when I get out, I go out to the river a lot of when I'm out there in the world, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything, I think is what really gives me inspiration.
Life. Hell yeah. That's neat. Have you had any periods in your career where you kind of shifted? It sounds like you started with marbles and are still on marbles.
Yeah.
You do make pipes.
I do. I basically make single pull Sherlocks with just giant marbles on the front. That's my thing. Anything I make has a bunch of marbles on it. So it's kind of hard for me to get away from that. But I did at one point, I had all my friends saying, hey, let's make more production spoons. Let's do this. And I just don't want to be known as a pipe maker. That's not who I am. And so I said, you know what? You guys do that. I'll keep making the marbles. And when you want a nice marble, I'll plop it on there. And then you don't have to worry about all that.
Right. And that's nice because everybody wants a nice marble on their stuff. Like they next level it every time.
Right. And so I'm finding now there's a lot of people reaching out for collab work. They want marbles to put on their rigs and their pipes and stuff. And that really helps me be able to get, a lot of collab work out there without having to be at someone's studio. I can send them a nice MIB and they just toss it on. So I think over the next year, I'm going to get a lot more work out there that way.
Fresh, man. What is your favorite color to work with?
Oh, that's hard. So lately I would say I have two favorites. Queen Bee is one of my ultimate favorite backing colors. It has so many different variables and it's just a beautiful color.
And who makes that? I've never heard of it.
So it's a tag color and
okay.
It's amber purple, but when worked right, it can be a lot on the brown kind of honey side, but it can really get those purples and blues that you really want with a striking color. I've yet to perfect it, but I definitely enjoy it. And the neat thing is, no matter how you put it on there, it looks beautiful. It doesn't ever mess up. So, but lately I've been really into heavy blue leprechaun. Is just a fabulous color. So I've been playing with that a lot more recently.
If there's a color out there that was given to you, and you know, what color have you found sucks that you're going to avoid? I guess is the question.
You know, super unobtainium and me don't mix because it's completely unencasable. And I've even put it on the back of a marble, and just where it overlaps with some clear, it's cracked. So it's a bummer because it's such a cool color. I've always wanted to make, you know, a super unobtainium vortex, but I don't know if it's possible. I know you could water it down a bit and get a better result, but then it's just not super unobtainium.
Right. So I
don't play with a lot of white.
I guess that's the word about it. It's unobtainable. So stay away from it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great, like little dots on a pendant or on a pipe or something. It looks beautiful, but yeah, I've yet to. I think maybe I'm going to make a big marble and just put dots all over the outside of it, just so I can make it that way.
Hell yeah. What do you consider to be the most challenging piece that you've created in your time?
Wow. So I made a 5-inch marble about 2 years ago. That's my biggest bar, and I actually sold it in Vegas. It was a B marble. I didn't really love it, but it was actually my hardest creation because at that point, I didn't have the rollers I have now. I was only working on like a 2.5-inch marble mold. And I had it to the point where it just kept falling off the punty. It must have hit the bench 6 times that day. And I was in like about 9.5 hours. My arms were tired. And I ended up getting it done, and it was beautiful and everybody loved it, but I hated it. And, you know, luckily I sold it in Vegas. So it was nice that someone saw beauty in it.
Right on. That's cool, man. And you fought through it and you even got paid for it. So that's home run.
Right. Ultimately getting paid for it was like okay, even stuff that doesn't turn out all the way, someone sees enough beauty in it, they're going to want it.
Hell yeah. So I guess that was the question I was going to ask you. Do you collaborate often? And it sounds like you being a marble guy, that collaborations are really starting to become a thing for you.
Yeah, I've actually found that in the last 2 years, I've sent away a ton of stuff. And then anytime I go to someone's shop to hang out, I'll leave a few different attachments. But yeah, it's definitely, I can basically hit anybody up that likes my work and say, hey man, let me send you something, and they'll slap it on something. So I would say this year is my collab year. I'm going to melt this year. I already talked with a couple of the big names that want to do some collab work, so they'll be there. And yeah, this is gonna be my year for collabs for sure.
It sounds like Melt's the place to be. So 2021.
I know. I'm super excited. We're going to have a nice little road trip, me and one of my shop mates, and we're just going to take our time going across the country and back. It's going to be fun.
Fresh, man. Well, I look forward to seeing you out there because me too. I'm planning on being there.
Nice. That's exciting.
Have you ever competed in any events before?
No, I've really thought about it. There's been a couple of the, you know, I don't know if they're necessarily my thing, but, you know, the glass games and some of these other things, I just don't know if there's necessarily a marble category in a lot of that. So what I'm actually shooting for right now, when I went to Humboldt Marble Weekend a couple years ago, we talked about it, and I'm actually building a crew and looking for the right studio. But my plan is this fall into next spring, I'm shooting to set the world record for the largest hand spun Boro marble.
What is that record you got to beat?
So I've looked in and I have not found a current record. I don't think that anybody's paid the money to set that record yet. And I've had a lot of feedback. A lot of people want there to be a lathe category and a hand spun category. And so I think when I contact them again, I really have to just pay that extra money to have them break that down. The way they go about it free just takes too long.
Right. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you hold that record, man. That'll be cool.
Awesome. I appreciate it. It's definitely going to happen. It just depends on how long before I can get them to come over with COVID. That's really been the slowdown process.
Oh, right. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Do you consume cannabis yourself?
I do. Yeah, I do. I won't say suffer, but I have like pretty hyperactive tendencies. And I've noticed throughout the years, it really kind of helps to bring me mellow. And yeah, I definitely use it medicinally, but as well, now that it's recreation here in Oregon. It's been really nice because I can smoke with people that used to always say, oh, once it's legal. And so, yeah, it's kind of opened up a cool world with some old friends.
Do you prefer flower or concentrates, or do you just love the plant?
I am a flower guy to the bone. I love to grow the flower. I love keef. I'm not anti-oil. I'm kind of old school, and it just makes me way too stoned too fast.
Yeah, I just love looking at a flower. You can, the trichomes, the green, the hairs, like there's so much beauty there.
And you can grow out in Colorado, correct?
Yeah, up to 6 plants out here as well.
Awesome. Yeah, there's something about the plant itself growing. If no one's done it, it's like, man, you got to try it. It's just a gorgeous plant.
It is. It's a lot of fun. What hobbies outside of glass do you have?
Wow, it's pretty vast. So I'm a huge fisherman. One of my favorite things to do is get down on the river, fish for bass, take my dogs out there. But I really like agate hunt as well. And I have probably 700,000 agates in my little spot out front. And so lately I've actually been making some hollow work and gluing agates onto it. I'm trying to figure out a way to bring those two mediums together a little.
So I'm going to stop you there. I got to be ignorant here. I don't know what an agate is. Help me out.
So in Oregon, on the coast and then down on a couple of the nice rivers, they're like really beautiful orangish yellow, sometimes white, but they're a clear rock. And they come in so many different colors, but they're just intermingled on the shore with just these ugly brown rocks or, gray rocks. And so when you get to a good spot, I also find petrified wood in the same area. And, back to actually where my inspiration comes, I think a lot of my inspiration came from rocks as well. But Oregon agate is just comes in many colors, and it's gorgeous stuff.
Well, thanks for educating me on that a bit. Do you use your own pieces that you do make, or do you use other people's pieces if you consume?
I actually like to use my own work. Just mainly, I don't make a lot of hollow work. So when I make one, it's usually probably pretty special, and I probably want to show it off. And so I tend to want to carry them around that way. And usually people will look at them and go, oh my gosh, this is like, not like a typical spoon or a typical Sherlock or something. So yeah, I try and use my own stuff just to get it out there a little more.
Hell yeah. And then how did you get your glass blowing name? Is it?
It's just my last name is Vincent. And all throughout my years growing up here in a small town of like 5,000, everybody used everybody's last name. No one ever knew me as Josh. Everybody called me Vincent. And so I realized as I got older, people who were in my close network called me Vincent. And so, one day I said, I'm not going to go by Josh anymore. So I just decided Vincent Glass Works would be the way.
Nice.
But then recently I added my AKA, which is finisher. I earned that down at Humble Marble Weekend, where they were all building this giant collab. 3.5 inches to them was just giant. And I was like, hey, you guys got a couple more hours on there. And they go, how do you know? And I pulled out one of my marbles and he goes, why aren't you helping? So I jumped right on there and I finished that thing up the last couple hours. And they said, hey man, as long as we're in California, your name's the finisher.
Hell yeah. That's fresh, man. What can we look forward to in the future from you?
I definitely want to be pushing 6 inches. I would like everything to come out of my shop 5 to 6 inches, all hand spun for a while until I really get a reason why I shouldn't be hand spinning them, potential shoulder problems or whatever that is.
What does a 6 or a 5-inch marble, what does that feel like when you're holding it? Because each further it gets, and it's got to be feeling like 50 pounds more.
Because the punty I'm shooting on is 1.25 inches, and it's 2.5, 3 feet long. So once you get that 5 pounds out there that far, it's multiplied by a lot. So there's a lot of times when you're just holding that thing and you physically think you cannot do it anymore. And if you got a shop mate, that helps. He can hold it for a second. But usually it's that threshold. Once you break that threshold, you want to break it again. You want to get to that point where you can't do it again and then see how far you can go. So I would say you guys can expect to honestly see me just pushing the boundaries as far as I can push them until I physically am too tired. And then I'll have to go to a lathe.
Hell yeah. I like it. And then do you find that you still have the same passion today as when you first started? Less, more, different?
I honestly think I got 100 times the passion for glass. I didn't realize when I started the marbles, I just did them for me. I didn't care if anybody really wanted them or was ever going to buy them. And that's why really, I think, progressed me to this point. And, there's just something about following what you care about. And then, here I am later. And now I realize, wow, these are sought after. People want them. And so I'm glad I didn't change, at all what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's hard to be you, actually. It's so easy to be pulled to be what they want or whoever they are. So
yeah, because you get a lot of feedback from people, especially when you start to build the big ones. And they go, oh well, it's just really hard. And there's just always, but it's like what other people's problems aren't my problems. It's like I'm totally legit. So yeah, it's funny to push those boundaries and see what a human body can do really in that kind of condition.
Yeah, no.
And then greats like Raven Copeland, who I look up to, amazing, and Scott Parnicki. Those guys have been spinning 5-inch plus hand, for a long time, and now they've moved over to a lathe. But when you see what they've done, you realize not only is it possible, but it's totally attainable to do it and then add your own style to it. And I'm just excited to hit 6 inches. That's my real goal in the next month.
I love it, man. Do you have any shout outs you want to give to anybody or anything you want to add?
I definitely want to shout out to Raven and Scott Parnicki. I look up to these guys, and I got to meet Raven at Glass Vegas, and it was super neat. I didn't know he was going to be such an honestly just genuine guy. I kind of expected after looking at his work that he would have to have, a little bit of a puff to him, but no, he's just a super down to earth guy. And then the same with Parnicki. I talked to him recently, and he's not in the glass scene as much as he says he'd like to. So I'm trying to get over to his space and kind of parlay with him a little bit because I think I'm going to actually need him for this world record. And ultimately, I would like to actually get all three or maybe a couple other the bigger marble makers involved because it's going to take a team. And who wants that glory by themselves? A team is the way to go on that. So
no doubt.
So yeah, I shout out to those guys, and I hope they hear it and go, "Hey man, let's get this thing built."
Yeah, that sounds cool. Like I don't even know how you attempt something like that. I mean, I got about a marble about that big, and it's a lot of work. So holy mackerels.
Yeah, I remember making them, 2.5 inches, and some of the ones I would spend hours and hours on, and I look back and they're still not even round, and I'm like, wow, what a long way to come from a 2.5 inch non-round to 4.5 inches, 5 inches perfect. So I don't think it's going to get worse. I only can imagine it getting a little better.
So you were mentioning sometimes your marbles are about like 9 hours. What's the longest you've ever put into a marble?
That is the limit for me is about 9.5 hours. Luckily that was a smaller torch. So I think a lot of that had to do with I didn't have enough heat as well. But at the same time, when you get more heat, it actually brings more trouble because once you crank that third stage up and you get that baked in radiant heat, you can start to lose the clarities in the opal, especially burning out the dichro. There's just a lot of problems that can happen.
Right. So it's finding that perfect temperature to where you go quick, but not too quick. And it just works out. Yeah. That's neat.
I'm out of nowhere. I'm going to move inside.
That's all right. And where's the best place to get to follow you and see all your new stuff?
Vincent Glass Works. I try and post as much as I can on Instagram, and I try and be at least every couple of days, bring something out there. It's kind of strange. You don't really realize on Instagram how much people are watching until you start posting stuff more regularly. And, you just realize people are actually looking at your stuff. So you do have to post as much as you can.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add or?
Just no, man. I really appreciate the support, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at Melt. That's going to be awesome. We can do some work together out there, and yeah, man, come follow me on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. Check out my work, and if you can't afford it, just take a look. You'll find something in there. I try and make some small stuff too to keep people being able to get my work. So.
Well, thank you so much for your time on this, Vincent. I really, really appreciate it. This was awesome. And yeah, your marbles are freaking fire. It's amazing. Until you carry one of these in your hand, you do not understand what these things are. And man, I love it, man. I love it.
I appreciate it, Steve, so much. I love the support, and I'm super glad I ran into you down there. And I just, I saw you and I knew you were going to be a good guy. So I'm just glad we linked up.
Hell yeah. Well, peace out, brother. We'll talk to you at Mel.
Awesome.
All right. Holy mackerels. Those freaking marbles are crazy. They're like, I don't know, man. Like, they're little balls of sun. I can't even imagine making something that big. Never attempted it. Just, it's crazy hot. That was super cool to talk with Vincent Glass. Super neat guy. And I can't wait to actually hang out with the guy in person and get to make something and see this something happen. I want to throw this out there. We got a 501c3 where we could use some help with that. And it's a really cool thing where we help rehabilitate and reacclimate war veterans. And then as well, we got a brand ambassador program that you can help us out and help yourself out as well. It's really cool. You can earn some dollars or credits. Anyways, Elev8. Mind, body, spirit.